Hi, guys. Thanks for joining James and I at the Nocturnal Feeding. We're going to just carry on the conversation from James's show over here. And I'm going to have James say hello to everybody while I get the chat running.
Absolutely. Hello, hello, hello. We have got Sand Creek Aquatics 2, Myrtle saying S, Pridemore's Fish and More, Post Seaweed, John Cox, John Larson, rolling and scrolling. Tom Patterson, what's going on? Catch you on the replay, he says. Deb Haldy, good to see you. Dave's Aquarium Thoughts, who's going to be coming up next after Chattanooga Ed. Fantastic Freak, Sand Creek Aquatics 2. Hello, Amy. SC Catahoulous. Already said hello to Myrtle, but hello again, buddy. Geek Boy, Gina French, Tim Carter, Brian Watson, Bottom Dweller Aquatics, of course, Ed's local fish store, Aquatic Aesthetics. Rob has followed us over as well. I say a big day at Aquatic Aesthetics Saturday. Spikes Corals in store with their tanks and their corals. Come see us if you're a coral guy / gal. That's awesome, and that is near Chattanooga, and I'm sure we can get some links up for that. Very cool, Rob. Sounds like an awesome event. John McKenzie, the Zen Ginger. Loria 99, HC Aqua, Jeff Rose, Fish Keeping, Amanda Hamilton, Maria Z, Nick G, Fantastic Fish Friends, Brian Watson, and many, many others. We've got 52 people watching, 38 thumbs up. So thank you all for that. Looks like Ed has got his chat up. We've got a question here to fire things off with if you want. I can read that off to you.
Yeah.
All right. This one is from Brian Watson, who says 12-gallon long with an oversized canister filter. I'll be using a spin pipe and reducing flow via a valve. I am aiming to moderate flow, I suppose, stocking 9 CPDs and some Pandagaras. Thoughts?
I wonder, do you need a dither fish for the CPDs to make sure they come out? Because I have 3 CPDs. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds bizarre. Right. I have 3. But I bought a fish tank from one of our local stores that shut down, and it had 3 CPDs. I didn't even realize it till I got them home. And I have them in a round tank with a lot of flow, and I only see them when it's feeding time. They're always hiding. So, but they don't jump out of the tank, which I like. Everything else I put in that tank is jumped. So, Absolutely. What do you think, James?
So, I think it sounds good in terms of moderating the flow. The only thing you sometimes have to worry about when you're tuning down a canister filter is putting too much back pressure on it. Putting back pressure on a canister can cause an issue of blowing a seal or a gasket or causing a leak in a tube, weakest point. And the other thing is it can burn on an impeller and a motor, potentially, that back pressure. That being said, it's not necessarily going to happen. It can. You can also look at flow in terms of break points in the tank. So maybe you've got full flow in there, and that way too much flow if it was hitting every area of the tank full blast. But you've got places that have more flow, places that have not necessarily dead spots, but very low flow. So case in point, my Piranha tank, and I know I use this reference a lot, but it's right here, and it's got a lot of flow to it. It's got at least 2,000 gallons worth of flow going through it, 125-gallon tank. When you say just those numbers, that sounds ungodly. And you think, well, 2,000 gallons of flow shooting through this 125-gallon tank. But it's directed at breakpoints. So, like, one of the power heads is directed where it hits the driftwood, and then it disperses out and it dissipates some. It's got a main flow point that goes around, and it kind of does a swirling, but I don't get a whirlpool effect in it. And there are dead spots, low flow areas, to be more precise, where the fish can get out of the higher flow. They really enjoy the high flow a lot of times, and a lot of fish do. I think we don't give fish enough credit for how much flow that they have to deal with in the wild and how much flow they might actually enjoy. So I wouldn't worry too much about the flow, other than make sure that the entire tank is not a giant bubbling mess. Make sure you've got some slow points or some breaks in there where fish can get off out of the current height if they want to. 9 CPDs and some Pandagaras. I think that's going to be a pretty tank. 12-gallon long. That's a nice. I say cute little footprint, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, even though that could sound it. Oh, that's a cute little tank. But I think that's a cute little tank. I think that's going to be a nice tank with the CPDs and the Pandagaras. I'd like to see some plants in there, and I assume you probably got plants in there. But I'm thinking, some nice plant work with those fish. That filter is going to be more than adequate to handle that. Maybe throw a small pleco in there. Throw a clown pleco in there. I don't know, something little. A lot of people are going to freak when I say, "Oh, what?" In a 12-gallon clown plecos, I think they max at like 3 inches. They're small fish, and they're not a big investment. It's not something that you have to go out and spend $70 on something you won't see. But that's my thoughts, because there wasn't a specific like help on this or thoughts on this. That's just my general thoughts on what I'm hearing.
Would you put another fish out there as like a dither to help them come out, be more, so they're not going to hide the whole time? I mean, I have never had CPDs, and like I say, I have had 3 now for a while. They hide a lot,
right?
And I've heard people say they'll put even like a Dano or something like that in there that's always up and around. But you got to have something fast, because CPDs are also fin nippers too.
Right.
I understand. So
generally my answer to that is just going to be more CPDs versus adding another mix. And then you're going, well, I need to add at least 6 of this other fish that I'm putting in here. Your 12-gallon tank, his filtration is going to handle bioload amazingly, but you still don't want to have the fish cramped for room, so to speak. Not that I necessarily hold myself to the standard stocking level, if you will. It wouldn't hurt to have more CPDs. Do I think you're going to need them? Not necessarily. If you find an issue that you're maybe not seeing them as much as you'd like to, like Ed mentioned, his 3 tend to hide. See if you get some more in there. Get a bigger school of them. Generally, I find one of 2 things will happen. Either as a group, they'll decide that they don't need to hide as much, or some of them will hide from the others, and then some of them will hide out in the open, so to speak. So there might be, I don't want to deal with them, and they're hiding in the grass, so I'm going to be out in the open. That type of thing. So they're almost working together against themselves, if you will. How oxymoronic.
Yeah, I see several people saying that I need to just get a couple more and I'll see them more too. Yeah. So that's what I probably should do. The tank is a beautiful tank, and it's more of a plant tank for me, because I only have shrimp and the CPDs in there, and maybe a couple of snails. So
absolutely.
But you know what? Before we get too far into it, I do have a little bit of news, because James and I, we've told everybody that we were looking forward to going to Aquafest in Louisiana, February 20th, 21st. They have pushed it back. And when I say they pushed it back, they've literally pushed it back over a year. It's going to be 2022, March of 2022. So, bummer, guys. James and I were really looking forward to that. Sean Peck was going to be coming too. He even Sean already had his tickets.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer, but we'll look forward to it next year. Hopefully it'll work out so we can do it. I don't see any news on the Big Fish deal. I went to their local page, or like their club page, and saw nothing. So I think the next real fish event that James and I will be able to go to will probably be Aquafest in June 10th or 11th and 12th. It's somewhere in there.
Aquashella.
I
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's in Orlando. And kind of a bummer, because James and I, we really look forward to going out, and we like those swaps where you can buy all the stuff. That's a lot of fun. And meet everybody is super cool. It's a great way to get stickers, and we don't have to lose a stamp. But it's just a great time to go to these events and meet people. So, yep. Looks like Orlando might be our next big event. Okay. So I just wanted to say that.
You're good,
Sorry
buddy.
about that.
No, don't. No need to apologize. It's
Yeah.
your show, buddy, and people need to know these things. You know.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm sorry more that it's been canceled.
Yeah. I am too. We had so much fun, not just hanging out with each other, but also meeting so many people last year. It's been a real bummer the back end of the year, where it went from like every other week we're meeting new fish people, or we're meeting people from YouTube that we've talked to but not actually gotten to meet, to kind of just no fishy interaction. So I'm really hoping that that'll maybe change up a little bit this year, and get back to some of the fun stuff. But I understand it is what it is with the current situation, and gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yep, and the ACA, I believe, is in June also. I think it's the week after Aquashella in St. Louis, and I think James and I were hoping to go to that. And I think while Aquashella is going, the Killy convention will be going on in St. Louis the weekend before the ACA. So those are a few things that I do know that are being still planned. And James and I, we're a member of the Circle City Fish Club. Is it for Fish Club?
Circle City Aquarium Club.
The
CCAC? I think it's CCAC, okay. Circle City Aquarium Club.
Well, and when we know that there's events going on there, we will let y'all know. Because like last year, we went to 2 swaps, and they were totally fun. And we got to meet John from Select Pet there. Well, that's actually where we met Lucas for the first time. It was bizarre. I'm talking to a guy about guppies, and Lucas says, "Hey, Chattanooga." And it's like, holy cow, that's Lucas. It was just fun. And so we'll definitely be going to Indianapolis a couple times this year, I'm sure. So there is that.
Definitely.
And Haley's always there, too. And Haley from Oddball Aquatics is a ton of fun, too.
Oh, yeah, she's a blast. She is a blast. Yeah. India is an awesome place to go visit. It really, really is.
Yeah. And we'll probably drag Sean to at least one of those.
Definitely.
He had a great time too. It was really funny because he said that he had so much fun going on a trip, because he said he hadn't been on a trip with just the boys for years. And the first place we stopped at was like some fast food place, and he ordered all this food. And then we were going to go to Sonic just to get ices. And then he ordered like another foot-long coney. And he was like, I never get to have fast food. It's like, he just had a great time. That was just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But, it really, really was.
Yeah. Sorry about digressing on that, guys. Did you see any more comments or...
we've got some questions in the chat. We've got one from Pridemore's Fishing More. Says, Fish Room Fever, have you ever had L75 plecos? Any tips on sexing or breeding them? Just got a couple today wanting to get some more. # too many plecos. Can you have too many plecos? I don't think you can, but I agree with you. So I've not had them. The little bit that I have seen about them, in terms of breeding them, they're fairly spread out through the Amazon. So they've got a lot of locations. I know that they're found in the Xingu, just like the zebras are. But they've got several other places they're found. And yeah, they're beautiful fish. They really are. But one of the things that I've seen mentioned is that the locational variances, kind of trying to keep them separate, I guess, if you will. So, because there are some different colors and things depending upon what location they're found in. So if you're getting them, let's just say you've got the more yellow colored ones, trying to keep the more yellow colored ones together and breeding that population out versus mixing them. Because I think that they even get into, of course, with locational variances, you can have L number variances. So I think the L301 is another one that's same fish, different location, so it's slightly different. So it's a different L number. L numbers are an interesting thing in and of themselves, and I'm not going to pull this all to plecos. Sexing, I have absolutely no clue, to be honest with you. Half the time, if I need to sex plecos, because I have so many, and I'm not retaining all that information, I will go and watch a couple videos on people doing it and go, oh, okay, because I could never remember 100%. Is like, okay, is this the L number, the breed of pleco that, you know, these fins are different, or is this the one that the head's shaped different, or is it this the one that, you know? So I always go and double check before I try sexing things, just to be sure. Of course, except bristle nose. Bristle nose are pretty easy to do. Really cool fish, beautiful fish. Should be able to get them breeding. Depending upon what location they're from, you know, parameters may vary slightly. You know, when you're talking the Xingu River, you know, it's hot water, it's fast moving, fairly rocky bottom, a lot of places, highly oxygenated. You know, other locations they may be found in may not be quite as hot. They may have a little bit more substrate to the bottom, if you will. You're not going to probably be able to figure out where they came from or find, you know, they're not going to say specifically, you go to the pet store and, oh, they're from this location. But I would look at like Planet Catfish and a couple other places and see if you can kind of narrow down and go, okay, this is, you know, what river, what area they probably came from, and kind of mimic that. In terms of other breeding tips, I've still got party popper stuff everywhere, even though I didn't have any. Still got it all over the place. I'm always pulling out party popper stuff. You know, a lot of the basics in terms of trying to get the water parameters there for them. So, and then I do the things like, you know, simulating the wet season and the dry season without getting like way in depth with it, because we've got other questions and I don't want to digress. And it's me and I love plecos and I could talk about that for an hour. But, you know, trying to simulate their breeding season is one of the things that I've found works really well with just about any fish. I've lost the chat.
I think we're going to have to do a top 10 or maybe a top 20 pleco show.
Absolutely.
Where we see your top 20, and then I can tell you when you get one that I like.
There we go. Fantastic Freak says, Ed and James, speaking aquarium co-op earlier, I finally placed my first order from Corey. Congratulations. You won't be disappointed. Fantastic.
You won't.
Can't be a true puffer lover without the Murphy hat. Any products from co-op you would suggest? Do we have 3 hours for this? No. How long does it show again?
You know, Corey tests everything, not just once, but for months. And I don't know if he really sells anything inferior. I mean, right. He tries really hard to make sure he's selling you a quality product.
He does.
But you know what? I'm going to grab the one thing that I think everybody should buy.
There we go. So I've got a lot of suggestions. I mean, so like you, I know you've got a lot of tanks. I can't remember what your air pump setup is, but if you're ever looking to replace or upgrade to a linear piston pump, I highly recommend the linear air pump from the co-op. In terms of kind of more day-to-day things, USB air pumps are great to have. Recommend everybody have one of those just in case. You never know when you're going to need it. They're great for traveling and trips also. In terms of my co-op stuff, I have the air pumps. I've got the sponge filters. The sponge filters are amazing. You know, I've got the measuring glasses for dosing products out.
The measuring glass is amazing.
These things are one of the lesser known things on co-op, I feel like, because I didn't even know that they had them until I saw Bob Steen fought with Dean, and Dean chucked one in the floor, and I'm like, that didn't bust. I need some of those. The Lee specimen containers, and this one's dirty, I'm sorry, but the Lee's containers you get from the co-op, they're not that brittle plastic. They're a bendy plastic. One day I'll figure out the audio for that video. I've actually got a video where I took 4 of these because I've got 4 of them and stuck a piece of wood on it. And I jumped up and down on the thing. And I'll give you the preview before the video since I can't send you there. They didn't break. And if this big guy can jump up on there, a couple 100 pounds jumping up and down on the things, you know, you can't see that, but I'm sure you could probably hear that thing bouncing around. I wouldn't do that with one of the thin plastic ones. So the specimen containers you can get from him are awesome. I highly recommend those. And they're a lesser known product.
This thing is so quiet. Can you guys hear this?
Negative.
see.
Nope.
I mean, I'm literally shoving it against the mic. They're so cool. James and I take these whenever we go on road trips. He plugs them in the back of the car, and you know how like styrofoam will drive you crazy in your car. Well, this makes no noise behind you at all. So
Yeah.
just,
of course.
So basically that, and then the easy green.
Yes.
This is the number one thing that I use.
10 out of 10, definitely recommend. If you've got plain and tanks, get some easy green. I mean, the merch, you can't go wrong with the merch either. I mean, most of us are merch people. We love hats and shirts. So if you're looking for some stuff to kind of add on there to fill in, you know, get that free shipping. Like you said, you're a puffer guy. You got to have a puffer hat. Definitely. All right, looking for questions and comments. I saw one up here wasn't highlighted.
You know, Mikey M says that we could do the top 100, 200, or 300 Corridoras. Did we do a top 10 Corridora once? One time we talked about Corey's.
I feel like you did.
I think we did one of Corey's, but I think we did like the top maybe 10 or 20. So we didn't go to the real rare stuff.
Ooh, this is one for Ed here. I Hate Stupid People says, do either of you know of any shows going on in St. Louis, Missouri, Joplin, Missouri, or Wichita, Kansas?
Well, that was the ACA. I believe it's the second week or the third week of June. And the week before that will be the Killies show also. So the Killifish will be that week. Those are the big ones. The club there is great. If who was that was wondering?
I have to scroll. I Hate Stupid People.
Oh, she's from St. Louis or Kansas City. Well, because I was gonna say join the St. Louis club because that's a really cool club. I don't know I think Kansas City has a club, but you know, clubs are really neat, especially even if you don't like hanging out with people and going to the meetings, they have like big swaps, and you can't go to a better place to buy fish because people are selling their beautiful high quality fish for next to nothing, or some plants, or maybe they've got a Buddha that they don't want to have in their fish tank anymore, and you want a Buddha, they'll probably give it to you free or maybe $1 or something. So
sorry,
you just don't know.
Yeah, you don't.
No, go ahead.
I ended up with an amazing group of shell dwellers that I had no intentions of buying at that particular time because the guy still had them, and he's like, "Here's a couple $100 worth of shell dwellers for $40 if you want them." Well, heck yeah, I do. So,
yeah, I've got great big purple mystery snails, and I mean they're like that big. I was just paying attention to them earlier tonight. I didn't even want them. I was buying this guy's guppy fry, and he threw a little bag of baby snails, mystery snails. They were like, he said, they're baby purple mystery snails. And I mean, I go like this, but I mean, it was a little bag. But man, they're doing great. I should give them to you, James. But or a couple, because I don't breed them.
I got you.
But they're neat. And then they're in a tank with some type of goodie that I didn't even know was in my bag. Somebody just threw a goodie in there. I've got just so much different fish. James and I, at the last swap we went to, I don't know if it was the last swap. The swap before, last one we went to Indy. We ended up with rice fish. So
yeah,
we just bought the guy out of his rice fish. James and I split it, and they're at James's house, and I'm happy.
Absolutely. He knows they're there. He can come visit them when he wants, and he doesn't have to worry about them. One of these days we'll get them over to you. John Cox saying, says, James, have you worked on a date for the Tennessee meetup like you planned for last year? Don't have anything set. Without getting political or into anything that YouTube doesn't like us talking about, it's hard to set things when you don't know how things are going to open up what rules and regulations and parameters might change with different administrations or any of that type of stuff.
Yeah,
So I guess the biggest thing would be A, when it's quote unquote safe, B, when we can actually get the vendors and things when they're willing to show up to events. That's going to be kind of the biggest thing. It's easy to throw some tables out and set up an event and plan, activities and stuff. But and I'm just going to use these names as example because they're companies you'll know. Let's say, if Fritz and CJ and whoever are going, no, our reps aren't doing any shows right now. That's a bad time to put on a show when you could wait and, say, well, we're going to have, a dozen different reps here. They're going to do demos, and a lot of times those places will, bring or donate something for an auction or a raffle, that type of thing. But if nothing else, they'll come in, they'll be part of the event. If you've got companies that are going, no, we're still not doing that because of current health situation, that definitely plays a factor in event planning.
Yeah.
Deb Hall D, if you'll send me an email, I was trying to find a way to get hold of you because I know you've asked about the Val before. I'll definitely take care of you and get you some sent out.
Just like James was talking about that event, it's a month ago, I wrote down a page and a half of events that James and I were planning on going to. And right now, all but 2 were canceled. Yep. And I mean, that was a big part of our show 2 years ago, was going through our calendar of events. We haven't been able to do that for a year now, or Absolutely. At least 10 months, 11 months. So it's just kind of a drag. Now, if you're talking about a get together, even with just the Tennessee Mafia, all of us YouTubers just hanging out. Right now, I think the Fish, the IFGA is still going to try to do the Deep South show in Murfreesboro, and I think we'll probably try to do a meetup there.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's still not a guarantee, and they may even close it off to the public this time. And just because with the IFGAs, people mail their guppies in from all across the nation, and then they're getting them, and they've got like tons of water set up in little tanks, and they're just going around, and they let the public come in and hang out. But I could see them this year just shutting the public out and just having the club work it. I hope I just didn't give them an idea. But, oh well.
So, Proudmoore's Fishing More was asking about L183's Starlight Pleco. Have you seen anyone with some for sale? No, and I just did quickly go and check about 10 different places that I would go to myself if I was looking, and they are all out of stock. Importing has been tricky with everything going on, fish and dry goods and all that stuff, and we've had several, fish store people talk about that. It's getting hard to find some things. But I don't know of any place. If I hear of anything, I'll keep you in mind. Proudmoore, yeah, beautiful fish. Absolutely
really
love it. What you could maybe do is poke Haley at Oddball Aquatics, because, of course, the connection with aquatic arts. See if maybe you could get her to look into it, see if maybe they just are out of stock because they're not ordering them right now, because maybe there wasn't a demand, or if they just can't get them. Maybe they have some in, but they're not out of quarantine, or they're not the size, or something like that. Because Aquatic Arts sells them, and I've been there. We know Haley. I can recommend them. So I maybe poke Haley at Oddball and say, hey, you got any news on these things? Can you get a hold of any? Can you let me know if you get any, type of thing? You're welcome, Haley, for putting you in that position. That's what I would do. If I was like, I really need these things, I'd reach out. Like I'd ask my local fish store. I'd reach out to Haley at Oddball and go, hey, anything you can do for me? Anything you know about the situation? Fantastic Fish Friend says, #Chunduged, I am creating a driftwood sculpture piece for my tank. Do I need anything besides aquarium silicone and driftwood to get them to stay together? How long should I let it cure?
Oh boy.
So go ahead, buddy. It's your show. You go first.
Okay. Well, they say there's quick drying silicone, but I don't trust it. I would let it sit, for a while. And I don't know, is that 72 hours is like minimum? I would let it sit for a week probably, just because I'm a very paranoid person. Gonna put it all together. You may want to put a piece of slate on the bottom too. Slate will keep it all from floating up. I have tried doing wood and siliconing it to the bottom of the tank, and it doesn't work in the end, because if you're travel vacuuming and stuff, it pops up way too easy. So I find if you put it on slate, the slate maybe has a little extra give, or, I don't know why, but it just always seems better when you put it on slate, at least for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Absolutely.
Okay. How long do you, I haven't, I siliconed, I did a couple of resealing tanks last year, and I've already forgotten what the max time is, or the minimum time. I think they say something like 24 hours. That's just crazy.
Well, and that's the thing. When you look at cure times, a lot of that, it will give you an initial time frame for it to quote unquote skin over, which just means that the outside is toughened up to where it's not sticky anymore. But for a full cure, it's usually, I like to give everything at least 2 or 3 days. Like even a 10-gallon tank, a small bead of silicone, I'm going to give it a couple days. Any of my bigger tanks, which is a thicker bead, which is what you're going to be working with, trying to attach wood together, I'm going to give it a week. That's just me. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm going to give everything a good week just to make sure it's 100% cured. I feel like a big problem you might run into, because here's what I'm seeing in my head. This is how it would work for me. If I was trying to build this thing and silicone all these pieces of wood together, I'm going to get it in the tank and the buoyancy is going to rip them apart. That's just how it's working for me in my head. Not that that's going to happen to you, and maybe you've soaked the stuff and it's not buoyant anymore and you don't have floating issues. Personally, I would use some well-placed stainless steel screws to help hold it together. Get them someplace they're not going to be visible all the time. One of the pieces of what I've got in the aquarium here, it's on a piece of slate, and that slate is attached via a screw through the stone into the bottom of the wood. You see that with a lot of wood that's on slate or other rocks. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe you don't have that problem, but if it looks like you might have that problem, you could throw some screws in there. People kind of freaked out sometimes in terms of metal going into their tank, but we've got to remember people used to intentionally throw nails into their fish tank to help with iron for their plants, 20 years ago. Just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I've used stainless steel screws also, so I totally agree. I wouldn't use a nail though, because it'd eventually break apart. Right. But by then, hopefully your wood's so waterlogged, you'd be good anyway.
Be fine. Sorry, I'm trying to respond to an email from one of our awesome people here that I need to respond to that just popped up on me. Get back on my chat here. Roland Ricky says CPDs or chilies for a planted shrimp tank. Would have thought the CPDs might prey on the shrimp more. Thoughts?
Everything eats shrimp but autocats.
Yeah, pretty much. You could do either. I really like CPDs. But honestly, you could do either one. Whichever one you would prefer, I would say go with it. I understand you're going to have some predation on the shrimplets. The biggest thing is just going to be able to give them some places to hide. Some plant cover for the baby shrimp, or a rock pile, even if it's not a quote unquote visible rock pile. So maybe you've got a rock pile in the back corner of the tank and you've got plants in front of it. Giving them some place that they can at least maintain a population and hopefully grow one. I've yet to find a fish. Let me rephrase that. I've yet to find a nanofish that will completely decimate a shrimp population to the point of them not being able to reproduce faster than they get predated upon. unless it's just a bare tank and it's just all out warfare on them. If you've got a good planted tank and places for those shrimp to hide, they'll hide. Even against the most aggressive guppies I've got, the shrimp still outbreed the guppies picking them off.
Yeah, and when they get to adult size, man, they're just swimming right with the guppies. They don't even care. You know, they just truck all over the place. I just don't buy expensive shrimp too. You know, buy some generic stuff from your local fish store and you'll be good. I have just normal cherry shrimp in mine. Works great.
So there's some other stuff we can jump back up to, but I'm going to grab this because he asked it over in my stream and I didn't get to it. Freshwater Canucks, good to see you again. Says thoughts on TDS / EC and pH meters. Ed and Fishroom Fever. You want to take that one first, and I'll follow up, my friend?
Oh man, I bought one. I bought the batteries, and I still haven't put it together. But I bought it because I thought it'd be fun. You know, I don't weigh heavy into the whole thing, or you know, I don't know how bits per part in your fish tank. I don't worry too much about that stuff, but I still bought it because I wanted to know.
Right.
You know, so
I'm the same way. That being said, I don't keep anything that I particularly need to focus upon the TDS. I do have a pH pen. I think it's awesome, and I use it from time to time. Mostly I'll use it on the zebra plecos, or during, like, if I'm trying to adjust pH for breeding is when I'm really going to focus on that. Other than that, I don't worry about pH. I know everything that I've got handles my tap just fine. And they're like John Cox says, I want TDS meter for breeding softwater fish. Those are going to be the focal points for me. If it's something that requires really precise parameters for it to thrive, such as if I was going to do Caridina shrimp, I would get a TDS meter because I know TDS plays a huge factor in your Caridinas, more so than it does with your Neocardinas. My pH pen, I'll use that when I'm working on breeding things that maybe are trickier, or like, you know, my zebra plecos, keeping an eye on pH there, things of that nature. Other than that, I honestly don't fool with them. There are some people that use them religiously, and I understand why they do, and I'm not saying anything against that. It's just not the style of fish keeping that I'm currently in, so they don't play a huge factor in me. Me. In my game, they're not there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I bought it for fun. You know, that's all I did. But I would like to get a pH pen because I think that'd be pretty neat. You know, I'd like to see. I'd like to monitor how fast crushed coral raises the pH. You know, I'd love to do a little test like that. So, without having to do chemicals and everything, if I could just dip it, that would be pretty neat. How much did that thing cost you, James?
It was less than $20 on Amazon.
Oh my gosh!
It wasn't even enough to make me remember how much it was, honestly. And it did come with somebody's asking about recalibrating. I don't know how often you need to recalibrate, honestly, but it did come with all the calibration powders to make sure it was initially calibrated correctly.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Oh gosh, somebody asked. Oh boy, where was it? Oh, John Cox said that he doubts that they'll shut the show down because they like to sell a lot of those fish. And that's totally true. They'll have an auction after IFGA events because a lot of people don't want to spend the money to mail their 2 male guppies back home. So they'll sell a lot of them. But some of the people do mail them back. So, you know, it's just kind of hit or miss. You never know. Fantastic Freaks wants to know if anybody in the Midwest would like to take a road trip to go to a swap in Omaha, April 18th, as long as I can say it, it's my show. The Cova permits, of course. I was looking for my piece of paper to write that down. I wrote it on my hand, April 18th. I'll check it out. I also have to check out, see what my family there and I was doing and what the weather's like. It should be nice by April, though, shouldn't it, James?
It should be.
But we'll see. Yep. Okay.
Sorry, I'm still replying to an email here. If it wasn't fishy, I wouldn't be working on it.
Let's see. I hate people said a $3 first fist bump. Oh, well, thank you. She gave me a pretend $3 fist bump, so I appreciate that.
There you go. God, I love it. Thank you for that. I hate stupid people.
Yep.
You're almost there. You're getting close to 1,000 subscribers.
I am. It's crazy. Jethro says it's normally in the 40s in Iowa. You know, I should really know that, Jethro's, because like all my family, well, my secondary family lives in Iowa. My mom and dad were both born in Council Bluffs, so Omaha is like one of my places that I used to go to quite a bit when I lived in Kansas City. Now that it's such a drive, I've only drove to Council Bluffs twice in the last 3 years since I moved here. Kind of a bummer. And yeah, Omaha is in Nebraska, but Omaha is like right on the river on the border, and Council Bluffs is on the other side. It's kind of like how there's Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, St. Louis, and East St. Louis. I don't know, other cities that almost every city on a border has another city on the other side. But yep. Oh, you know what? Do you guys remember those cookies cutters I got out last week? And I said I was going to make cookies. Check it out. I made a whole bunch of these sugar cookies for my niece's birthday party yesterday. And they are awesome. Can you see it, James?
I can. That is super awesome.
Yeah, only the angelfish worked. There was an octopus, totally backfired. There's a shark. It's pretty good. It's kind of like a long candy bar. And then I made a giant Cheez-It one. And I just broke its dorsal fin.
No.
But delicious.
All right,
so I wanted to show that to you guys. And it turns out what I did was I was supposed to make the dough really thin, and it would have been a lot smaller, but I misread the instructions. The instructions said if it's a 1/2-inch cookie to leave it in for 7 minutes and stuff like this. Well, she meant 1/2 inch like this way, not this way. So I was going for a 1/2 inch of dough. So it kind of spilled out. But yep, I just wanted to share the cookie with y'all because I was kind of proud of that.
You don't have enough to share though, Ed.
No, I even ran out of the icing too. So I've got a couple without icing. But as soon as this show's over, man, I'm eating that thing.
There you go, absolutely. Is Dave doing a giveaway? I just see Dave's Aquarium Thoughts says giveaway smiley face. I'm gonna have to go look at that real quick. Excuse me.
Priscilla says that Nebraska is only an hour and a half from her house, but she's on the other end of Nebraska. Omaha is on the farthest possible east of the state.
So Freshwater Canuck says, all right, tough question for you is Chattanooga Ed Fisher and Fever. 1,000-gallon tank. What do you do with it? I'm thinking sand, one group val, and small schooling fish like tetras. I think that would be amazing because almost anytime you see a big tank, it's for big fish, and understandably, because a lot of people have them, and I'm not saying this is correct, but a lot of people have the mindset of that's a whole lot of tank to waste it on little bitty fish. So you really don't see the massive group of small fish, and I absolutely love that look. Personally, if I've got 1,000 gallons, I'm hoping that it's the footprint I want because getting into that big, I'd love to have it laid out where it's shallower and wider for a stingray. It's 1,000 gallons. That's one of those things. John Cox's 1,000-gallon tank for me would be Angels, Discus, and Cardinals. If I had to pick something else, mine's probably going to be Piranha. And I know a lot of people are like, Piranha. But 1,000-gallon Piranha tank, I'm not one of those people that thinks they're boring. So I think that would be amazing to get a really, really nice big group of piranha in a tank like that. But that's just me.
Priscilla lives in Colorado. Let's see. What would I put in that? Oh man, I don't know. There's too many possibilities. I like the little fish too.
There are. You know what? 1,000 gallons. Get you one of these smaller, and I say smaller knowing that they all get big, but one of the smaller datnoids.
Yeah,
and some other fish in there.
I thought about the datnoids also because James and I talked about if we did a 1,500 or 1,600 tank in my house, that's what I would do. Is maybe do datnoid just because nobody else does them.
Yeah, datnoid, bichers, clown loaches. You got room in there for some clown loaches.
Yeah, actually, it'd be nice.
I think though we have the answer. This takes the cake. Merdul Singh says, fill the 1,000-gallon tank with tons of Didens plants and then put one Episto and make the guest play spot the fish. LOL. There you go. That's perfect. Love it.
Or maybe 2 rams. I would like that.
It's got one guppy.
You'd have to spend so much money keeping 1,000 gallons hot for your 2 rams.
Yeah.
Ouch. Oh, I fixed my fireplace.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. The gas company came out and finally fixed it. And now I have gas heat throughout my house, which is super nice. I can leave the fish room open a little.
Very nice. That is awesome. Third Coast Aquatics, I'm right there with you, says, I love piranha, man. 1,000-gallon full of them would be bad. You know what? Yeah, absolutely. That's my thinking. Where did it go? Brian Watson said 300 rainbow tetras, dozens of flag, Akara, angels, a huge school of cories, autos, hatchetfish. Absolutely. So many cool things you could do with that.
That'd be awesome to have 200 cory cats swimming around.
That really would be. No, I really do think, regardless of what specific fish you go with, a lot of little fish would look amazing in that. And, like you could do, a whole bunch of one type of fish and still have a whole bunch of cories in there too. You could have tons of little fish of varying types and have a really awesome tank that would be kind of out of the norm. It wouldn't just fall into and I've done it, so please don't take offense when I say this, but, I have a big tank, so I have a big fish, because that's mostly what you see. It's massive tank, massive fish. It's fun. I like monster fish, but I would love to see the little fish win out on one of the big tanks.
See, I actually am not a big fan of big fish because I feel so bad when they die.
Yeah,
I'm terrible.
I'm there with you.
My biggest fear is that I will give a big fish hole in the head. My whole life, seriously. Since I was a little kid and learned about hole in the head disease, I've been terrified of hole in the head, and that's why I've never had an Oscar. I think that's one of the biggest reasons. Oh, well.
Where did it go? Saw a question about the Med Trio somewhere.
Yeah, I was just about to say the Med Trio. Corey has a great video on how he uses them. I think he's using them a different day every 2 days. He's doing a different one. It's about his quarantine room at the shop.
Yep.
And this is where I'm going to sound terrible. I have I bought the Med Trio but I generally wait and I monitor the fish and I look to see if they need it. And what I found is I normally use General Cure the most. I have used the IC also, the IC one time, but generally I keep all my tanks, so they're basically a quarantine tank for every species. So I don't do any mixing with my fish, so that way they're not going to be getting each other sick. So basically, if they look healthy, I'm not going to worry about it.
Absolutely. Aquatic Ascetic says, Ed, I have food that treats hole in the head, medicated. So there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I don't know if he also has Oscars. I could get and like I think they're his own baby Oscars too, which is really cool.
So again, going back to the trio, I was mentioning it for Columnaris. I'm not 100% sure on the, because I know he switched his trio up a while back. I'm not 100% sure how that does in Columnaris. Anytime I've had to treat it, I've actually got it here on the desk here. I've done Canaplex. Just because, and I don't like to use this stuff. And that's funny for me to recommend it and say, I recommend this. I don't like to use it. This stuff is kind of like dropping a nuke in the tank, to the point that, so the dosing on it, see if I can get this out of here. There's the doser on it. There's how small the doser on this stuff is. So it's real easy to overdose. And it's like dropping a nuke on the tank. What's that for 5, I think? Yeah, 1 level scoop of what I just showed you for every 5 gallons. Every other day, no more than 3 times. Worked, but again, it's kind of like a last resort. But if, again, and I say that not knowing for sure what the current Med Trio mix-up effectively treats, because, you know, not everything treats everything. So if you look at it and find that's not one of the listed things, because generally, like I know his is focused more towards your standard basic ick and that type of stuff, there's another recommendation for you.
Yep. Canucks is trying to get me to use my pool again. Everybody wants me to turn my pool into a monster fish thing. It's not going to happen. I spent my whole life wanting to have a pool to lay in the summer. And now that I'm retired, I'm going to lay in the pool.
But you've got the jacuzzi you're turning into a fish thing.
I do. I have like a 8 or 9 man jacuzzi. It's just gigantic. And I'm going to turn that, I think, into a goldfish pond.
Absolutely. Rico went to bed. Have a great night, my friend. Appreciate you hanging up so late. Looking forward to you being on tomorrow there. That's going to be fun, I'm sure.
Yep. I'll be hanging out with Rico tomorrow at 4 o'clock or 4:15. I guess it depends on what Rico wants to do. We normally start at 4:15 because that's when Lefty gets out of school. So as soon as he's out of class, we do our show.
There you go. Tim Kendrick says, hey guys, I have a 120-gallon discus tank with 1 breeding pair. They are laying eggs every 2 weeks. Parents are very protective over the eggs, but they keep eating the eggs. Thoughts?
Is there anything else in the tank? I would take them out and put them in their own tank.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a cone, because those breeding cones are awesome. They even have like a little thing, so if the egg comes down, they can pick it up and stick it back up there. I mean, I just love those breeding cones. And keep a night light on at night.
Yep.
And that'll help a lot too.
I mean, that really covers it. I mean, that pretty much is, you know, make sure there's nothing else they're worried about predating on their eggs, so they're eating them out of fear. The light helps to avoid the predation on the eggs. The cone is great. I really don't have anything to add to that. That kind of covers my general suggestions.
Yeah, put them in a 20 tall or something tall by themselves.
The only other thing I could say is to relate it to my angelfish. Sometimes they can be jerks, and you see, some pairs they may get it right the first or second time. Some pairs they may go a dozen, hatches, not necessarily hatches, but a dozen spawns before they stop eating the darn things. They all tend to be different on time frames from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've had angels that are also lesbians, and they're just 2 girls that lay eggs a lot.
Eggs, yep, definitely happens.
I don't know if that happens with discus, but I know it works with angels that way.
Like Paul Stero once again chiming in says, "Give them time, they'll figure it out." Yep, Absolutely. Sometimes it just takes time before they stop doing it.
Yep. Make sure they're full too. Put in some high protein food, keep them full. I guess everything though for discus is pretty high protein.
Most definitely. It's
been a long time since I had discus. Probably been 20 years.
They're beautiful fish.
Definitely they really are. Fish. And they're very sociable. But maybe that just goes along with all kind of large fish. I don't know. Well, my angelfish are very sociable. They always come where I have my angelfish tank in my kitchen, and when I'm cooking and stuff, they follow me everywhere. I love it. They're funny.
Absolutely. Ed, I'm not sure what time you wanted to wrap up. I know I ran into yours a bit this morning. Well, not this morning, but before this. Yeah.
Well, mods, thank you so much. Oh, hey, it's Derek's here. Hey, Derek, it's great to see you.
That guy fishing more. What's up, buddy?
Heck yeah, I haven't been able to talk to him for a while. I need to. I've been really kind of out of sequence right now, or out of sync, I guess, for what my normal lifestyle is. So hopefully it starts going back to normal. I've had a friend here, and I've been trying to help her get a job and get situated. And she's got a job now, so maybe I'll try to focus more on checking out other people's shows again and doing that stuff. But guys that have won stuff, it's in the mail. So expect your things like next week sometime. And it's like a coconut for Dave, and Gina French has a rock on the way, and those are from Aquatic Aesthetics. Thank you, Rob, for being awesome. And if you guys want to try to buy one of those coconuts or something, call Rob up. Maybe he'll send it to you, or put the pressure on Rob to start a online thing or something. Absolutely. But James, thanks for hanging out with me. It's always a whole lot of fun. I wish I could hang out with you every day because it's so much fun.
Absolutely. As always, thanks for having me, buddy. Final follow-up there to Tim Kendrick mentioned feeding mostly brine shrimp with some beef heart. I mean, you're doing the good things there. Only other thing I can suggest is I have had some angels where I actually would tape a cardboard box over the front of their tank, or put something over the front so they weren't getting spooked by like me or the cats or anything in the room. So like if it was a tank I interacted with oftenly, I even covered the front so that they weren't getting scared by what was going on outside. And that's where I'll leave that at. I will say, if you followed over from the Fish Room Fever live stream and you're not subscribed to Chattanooga Ed already, you've hung out this long, you might as well hit that subscribe button. Do me a favor, do Ed a favor. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We have 71 watching, 67 thumbs up. So that is great. Very much appreciated. Dave's Aquarium Thoughts is up next. He is doing a shirt off my back giveaway, as he has it phrased. So that's going to be fun. Be sure to go check that out. I give up on words for today. We'll try again Saturday.
Oh, and you know what? Before we completely cut it off, I want to say congratulations to one of our fish fam, Amy from Sand Creek Aquatics 2.
Yeah.
She had a video go viral. I think it has 380,000 views. So congratulations, Amy. You need to start giving us tips, I think.
Right. Can you please tell me how to do that, Amy?
So congratulations to you. And guys, we'll see you tomorrow on the Goofy Show. If you guys want to talk games, you guys want to talk movies, you guys, anything, fish, you bring it and we'll talk about it tomorrow. And then on Saturday, I'll be with this guy again on Saturday Night Live. And I don't know, I haven't even talked to him about who we're going to be talking to, but hopefully we'll be able to announce or get close to announcing the Catfish Christmas. But until then, see you guys all later.
Go see Dave.
Bye. Oh, yeah, Dave's awesome.